Fly season in Maine. Hi everyone, welcome back to our Homestead. Hi everyone, welcome back to our Maine Homestead. Today we're going to finish tearing down the root cellar, and also I wanted to share with you how well it worked for us. It wasn't perfect, but we used it over the last 2 years, and winters were the most challenging. But I'll give you kind of how we utilized it and kind of what worked and maybe what didn't, or what could be improved possibly on this design. If you haven't seen the build videos for this build, we'll put a link to them up here somewhere. She will. I don't know how to do that. And you can kind of take a look at how it was built if you're interested in doing something similar. So let's get started. Here comes the sheep again.
I'll bring him back.
You can't leave the scene if we're in... Why in the... So we've gotten the building that kind of encased the root cellar taken down. Now it's time to take the rest of the root cellar down. So I thought I'd talk real quick about how well it worked, what didn't, that kind of thing. So the idea, if you haven't seen the build videos, it's a 2-foot deep hole. I built rock walls all the way around the 2-foot hole, and then I built a log structure on top of it. That's what you see here. And then I insulated it with 2-inch foam board. Not a heated building, number one, so you don't get any residual heat from the building. But through performance, I ended up having to run a heater on and off throughout the day, some days, depending on the weather, in basically January and February. So 10 months out of the year, it worked perfect. The humidity levels always stayed high because the floor is dirt. The temperatures stayed very moderated. I tried to keep the temperatures in January and February from going below 30, so I would run a small propane heater in here on those days, which was, you know, overall maybe 15 to 20 days a year, which is not much based on what we had, and we don't have a heated environment around it to share some of that heat when it's needed. But that would lower the humidity levels a little bit. The humidity levels in the summers and spring and fall were typically in the 80s, 80%. Black flies. Yep. And then in the winter they would stay high, except when I artificially dropped them with the propane heater. But overall, this design worked really well. If I was going to do something differently, which ideally you would go and make this deeper in the ground, or mound up earth all the way around it and cover the top so that you get the insulating value of the earth around the entire building. Here you can see a lot of gaps. I filled these gaps with moss, and again had the insulation, the foam board insulation on the outside or the inside, but there was really no heat production. So the only way to keep that, even if that insulation was enough, which it's not where we live, but it did help, even if that was enough insulation, you still have to provide a heat source, because there's roughly 5 feet, 6 feet of building above ground, so you just don't have that insulating value of the earth, if that makes sense. Anyway, overall worked really well. We stored homemade canned goods, store-bought canned goods, a lot of different things, a lot of ferments that we do, as well as a lot of fluids that will freeze if left out in the storage shed, that kind of thing. We don't have our only heated space, always heated space, heated with our wood stove, was our cabin, so very limited space for things to move inside to a heated space during the winter. So this was a kind of a great place for that, and as long as you keep those temps up, which was easy to keep the temps up, but it's just a little extra heat production that you have to provide. Overall though, almost a perfect environment. Again, a few tweaks and you could really make this work without the heat maintenance that I had to do to kind of keep it where we wanted it. but overall I think it was a success, and it worked. This was an experiment. I do a lot of experimenting, as you know probably, but it was an experiment. It wasn't a long-term thing. I'd never built rock walls, so I really wanted to build rock walls. I'd never built a log structure. I got all these logs off of our property. A lot of them were down logs. I didn't cut down many trees at all, and it was just kind of fun. I learned a lot doing it. I learned a lot about managing the root cellar, number one, but I learned a lot about construction, and definitely about rock wall construction, which was really fun. It's all dry stack wall. So overall, a huge success, but now it's got to come down. So we're going to take the rest of these posts down, this structure down, and make way for another building. So let's do it. Here we go. You're going to talk. That was a lot of logs. So that's it, except for these 4 posts and the rock. I'm gonna try to recover and reuse as much of it as I can for some retaining walls that I'm gonna have to build. But for this situation, I think we're done. I'll pull these 4 posts down, have an excavator. We have an excavator out here digging a basement hole for us, so we're gonna have them hopefully scoop up some of this rock and put it somewhere so I can get to it later. Thanks for watching, yada yada.
Comment below if you have any questions. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when we have new videos. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and we will see you next time.
Thanks.